Racial sensitivity. So something I've been noticing with a lot of my white peers is they are almost afraid to talk sometimes, especially if we have conversations like this. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing or offending. So they are almost going through this like PTSD after, this whole movement. Well, like, but like, what can we tell our white friends in having like a simple conversation that it's okay to like, to acknowledge this and say this. And if you say something wrong, I'm gonna, let you know, like, what does that look like to you? And what should we tell our white friends to ensure them that it's okay to still have the same conversation and be yourself? Just recognize that this is happening,
I think this is something I've been struggling with a
Mm-hmm.
bit lately.
Mm-hmm.
I, at the beginning, was just so angry
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't really willing to listen to anybody saying anything different, and I just cut them off.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I've created this space on my social media where everyone that I see is like-minded, but sometimes in the comments there will be people arguing and things like that, and I just kind of go right back into that like
Mm-hmm.
argumentative thing. Um, so for the past like probably like month, I've been kind of weaning myself off of social media.
Yeah.
And I think obviously that's where most of us are having conversations right now because of
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic. Um, so I don't know. I like to think that if I were to finally be able to meet up with my white friends again, that we would be able to have normal conversations, um, but still be able to talk about the difficult things. Um, I just don't really see myself being able to talk about it without getting like
Fired
too
up.
upset about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want to like make people uncomfortable and like
Right.
ruin the evening by talking about systemic racism and how our nation is falling apart.
Well, yeah. I don't think you would ruin it. That's been my thing, like having those conversations and putting it into perspective. And it's like, well, if I ruin their evening, that's like been years for me.
Right.
If we're really talking about, how I've
Exactly.
been, living as a Black person in America and how I have to see these people that look like me dying in the streets all the time. You know? So, and that's been my thing. I've been trying to figure out, like, with cancel culture, because at the beginning I was like, canceled, canceled, canceled.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, well, is that the answer? Like, I really want to be able to expose and enlighten people to my culture and my experience. And I can't do that by canceling people. But at the same time, I don't feel
I
safe
don't
in
want
I
their
don't
energy around me. Yeah.
right. So what I don't know what.
I personally, I feel like the white people who get uncomfortable about race talks are either the ones who just don't know enough to contribute, or the ones who feel like they know and feel like they can tell me what it's like to be Black
Mm.
because they watched the Karen DeZone's video. I'll bring it back to that.
Bring it all the way back.
Oh, we're gonna circle back.
But no, in actuality, like I was having this discussion earlier with one of my white friends, and what it really is that there are so many white people who are painfully unaware of Black culture and what it is, besides what they see on TV, which is a curated image, because they've never been a part of it. They've never had many Black friends, and they never had many Black friends, and never been to predominantly or even proportionately equal Black schools.
Right.
Haven't been around our communities and our culture outside of listening to the last 2 Chainz album.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And so when you get all these people who think they know what they're talking about, they're easily offended because they are immediately proven wrong for as many facts and numbers and statistics as they want to bring up. They have no experiential knowledge or cultural knowledge.
Mm.
And it is, the more you talk to them and the more uncomfortable they get, the more painfully evident that it is, that's the case. And so, and the real issue of it is that as a Black man, I am living in white America. But as a white person, you are not living in Black America, for the most part, on the whole. And so the issue of it is that I know how to navigate both worlds,
Right.
and you don't think one of these worlds exists.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Ooh, preacher, get off.
damn. Yes, man.
Oh, nah. Hallelujah.
Oh, he's been thinking before. He's
Reverend
out here
Ted.
thinking.
That's the T with B.
I heard him now.
Wow. That's so
No.
true.
You guys, yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. I've noticed with some of my friends, it's most of my friends, feel as I do. But I think, you guys probably experience this too. You probably tend to surround yourselves with people who are like-minded for the most part. Then you have a few people that, and a lot of, your friends, they will, they do. I have noticed that they do feel uneasy. They don't kind of know what to say. And it's not, you can just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Feel it. And I don't know. I think that really it's a time for, us to just really come out and just talk. Just talk about it. And let the chips fall where they may. Pretending that it doesn't exist is no longer an option.
Mm-hmm.
And even, I think that I was thinking a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, well, not a couple of weeks ago, probably about a couple of months ago, that when all of this started happening, that in some certain way, I think that we as Black people had, because this is all not new, and I think I may have mentioned this on the other video, but this is not new, and I think that in some certain way, we have become accustomed to the world the way, existing in the world the way it is. Having to tell our children, look, well, when you go out, this is what you do with the cops. And you don't, and we just don't, and kind of in a certain sense, and just as a country, African Americans in the US, we always knew, we just kind of was like at a place where, oh, okay, well, that's just the way it is. And kind of just accepted it. And that's, and they kind of in the sense accepted it that it's not going to change. And I think that is the mistake that we made.
Yeah.
Because we accepted it, and we accepted that it's not going to change. And that the fight that is in us now has to be fight that is each and every day going forward. And it can never, ever, ever let up, because that is I think that is why Martin was able to do the job that he did, because each and every morning he woke up, there was that fire in his belly, and he knew that, and even John Lewis, they knew that you have to stay on it, because it has to be in in people's face, and in order to stay relevant.
Yes.
Otherwise, it does fall, and that is, not just for them, but for me, and each of us as an individual, to do our own things. All of us may be John Lewis's, but to make differences in our own communities, and never sell ourselves, short on things just for the sake of doing something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it is, and it is one of the things, like, Brandon, you know this about my brother. He's very outspoken, and so this
Yes.
he's happening. I'm not that guy, especially on social media. But he goes all in. And me right now, because I'm dealing with other things, I'm like, I just don't have the bandwidth right now. And yeah, there are moments when I'll call somebody out about something, but there are a lot of times when I'm like, especially when someone is very belligerent about their point of view. Well, you're not gonna change their mind,
Mm-hmm.
and you're certainly not gonna change mine. And so I weigh it, and I'm like, is this worth my time? Now, if you're willing to have a conversation, and a conversation meaning an exchange of ideas, and things, and understanding where each other is coming from, and perhaps we can learn something from each other, that I'm willing to do. But I'm not willing to sit there and argue and go back and forth with you on Facebook trading barbs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's missing.
Yeah.
100%. And
Right.
to clarify something that I said, just for the people listening, when I said that I feel as though I'm living in both Black and white America simultaneously, there are people out there who are just like, white people out there who are genuinely like, racism is still not a thing. Not even systemic racism, just racism, point blank period. They're like, well, like, the Ku Klux Klan is out there, but that's different. And I'm sitting here going, Ruby Bridges is still alive. Ruby Bridges is only about 60 or 70 years old, the first Black girl to be able to go to school in the South, or in Little Rock, Arkansas. This woman is still alive, which means the same people who spat at her and called her the N-word are also
They're
probably
still alive
alive.
too.
And you're going to try to sit here and tell me that racism is dead in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When my mom was born the year after Martin Luther King was killed.
Mm-hmm.
That means 2 people ago, my grandmother lived in a world before Martin Luther King. That's exactly what that means. That's 2 people removed from me.
Right.
And then people try to justify how racism and systemic racism is not still alive and well in this country when it was not that long ago.
No.
Right.
No.
They like to show those pictures in black and white, though, so that makes you think that it was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean. Like, there is a version of the narrative that is heralded by white America.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the same version that I've had to live through for the past 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I think that what a lot of our white friends are learning, one of the things I think that they're learning is that there's a lot of Black history that they didn't know.
Well,
And
let's just call it American history at this point. And
well,
that's the issue of it.
American history, but the problem is that they don't teach it. And even we had to go out
We don't know it. Mm-hmm.
what our history is, and I'm not fully. I mean, there are people that I'm still learning today,
Mm-hmm.
that I need to go out and read, on lots of people that I didn't, and I'm like, and you call yourself an aware African American? Really?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know whether you can hold them accountable for it, but because they don't know. They don't, many people have not seen, the images that we've seen,
Mhm.
swinging from trees.
So I don't hold anyone accountable for not knowing. Ignorance is a very different thing. I hold people accountable who deny.
Right. Got it. Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. 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 But that is that.
People who deny and minimize are very different from people who are just ignorant.
Right.
Right.
But that was
Not
one of the.
excusing ignorance though, because it's 2020. You can read a book or look up things online and educate yourself.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
I just mean I put them in a different camp, and it's a different
Mhm.
conversation. To me personally, you could feel differently.
No,
Right.
no, you're right. But I mean, that there's just certain like intricacies, things that that a lot of people, a lot of white people did not know and did not realize that these things. Well, not. I mean, they knew that it happened, but to really, they just didn't realize that like you just said, Tamir, that Ruby is still alive. It's not that long ago. It's not as long.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't in the 1920s.
Yeah.
Or
I'm over here thinking Martin Luther King, this man is like from the Stone Age.
yeah,
Right.
and it
But
wasn't.
like my mom put it in perspective. She was like, literally, I was born the year after in 1960.
Yep.
My
Yep.
mom was alive and she didn't know about him until they killed him.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
He
Oh my
never heard his
God.
name until he died.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
My mom was afraid of the recordings. So I guess like back in the day they had like I don't like they had to put it on like a disc or something, and
Mm.
I guess her mother had all of his speeches on a record or something. And she said she was a little girl at the time. So she said that his voice was just like terrifying in the way he's it was an inside joke, but just imagine being like a little kid and just hearing his voice and like
Yeah.
like getting all fired up. But yeah, like she was alive and she remembers that like she remembered it clearly. So
Wow.
it's right there. I'm trying to look up. Did you guys? This is like I'm going like off off script for a second, but I just had this like
Oh,
epiphany.
please do. Yeah.
Did
What's
you
up?
hear about the real Rosa Parks?
What do you mean the real Rosa
The
Parks?
So
first Rosa Parks, that thing?
there's another Rosa Parks where like there was this girl. She had the same situation as Rosa Parks, but she was dark skinned,
Mm-hmm.
and her story never made it to the light. While meanwhile, Rosa Parks was the one who actually became like this activist,
Whoa.
flowers
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
I didn't know that.
And she's still alive. Hold on,
Whoa.
I have to figure out
Oh,
her.
she's still alive too.
I believe yes. I
But
have to. What's that?
I have heard of this, but I didn't know that she was still alive.
Man, who was the woman before? Claudette Colvin.
what?
Yep, Claudette Colvin. In 1990, in March 1955, 9 months before Rosa Parks defied segregation laws by refusing to give up her seat to a white passenger on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, 15-year-old Claudette Colvin did exactly the same thing. Eclipsed by Parks, her act of defiance was largely ignored for many years. She herself didn't talk about it much, but she spoke recently to the BBC.
Wow.
And apparently her story had made news, but because she wasn't light skinned, mainstream media took Rosa Parks' story and went to, yeah. So for everyone out there listening, look up Claudette Colvin too. Not trying to take anything away from Rosa Parks, but you know, that's just something that I think a part of where this conversation was going is that you just have to educate yourself properly.
Mhm.
You have to dig deep into the history because what they are telling us, not saying it's not right, but there are some pieces missing,
Yeah, it's
some
not the
very
whole
important
truth.
pieces missing. So,
But it's very, but oh wow, I have a lot of questions about that, but I say them offline. No,
and
because I'm one of those people. I don't always. I question everything. I don't accept everything at face value
As you
because
should.
there are other implications here. And I would ask. My first question will be, well, why am I just not hearing this?
right.
Because I'm not that disconnected, and why, Martin or somebody else or someone else hasn't talked about this, and was it purposely done, or what was the reasoning? Boy, wow.
That's the thing, is that there's so many black stories and black speakers and black people who we should be taught, who we should know about. Like, I didn't know who Colin Powell was. I didn't know who Farrakhan was until very recently.
Oh,
And
we
like,
learned
those are
about
two.
Colin Powell, but
Huh?
we learned about Colin Powell, but
I
that
didn't know
was
about him
really,
until last year in a sociology course where we were talking about like the power of speech and reading what that can do. And he is one of the great black orators. So we covered him in a section. But I was 22 years old the first time I heard about him.
Right.
Well, and see, and that's part of the problem that we were talking about earlier, that with the education in America, it's just history, black history in school is what, one chapter,
mm,
maybe, and it covers George Washington Carver, Martin Luther King, um,
Frederick Douglass.
Frederick Douglass, a little bit about oh God, what's his name? Was Muslim, red hair.
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X, a little bit. They only mentioned him just a little, couple of hair.
mhm.
That's because they wasn't ready for Malcolm X. That's why.
No,
I don't think we're ready now for Malcolm X.
Yep. Yep.
but those are all the people that that they talk about. They didn't talk about oh God, what is his name?
John Lewis.
John
John
Lewis.
Lewis.
They didn't
They
really
don't
talk about him.
they don't talk about my God, what's my boy's name? I'm reading his book now. Shoot. Um,
James Baldwin?
yes, my favorite.
Yeah.
Talk about him. He was a part. He was part of it. Because I'm reading Another Country right now. He's a phenomenal writer. But there were just so many people at there
Right.
during that time, and you don't know, and they I don't know. It's just there's so many contributions that a lot of,
Simone, even.
when you even think about it, this country.
The singer.
Say it again.
Nina Simone, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Yes.
Who's one of the most important black singers ever.
Yeah.
And
But they-
literally, the only reason I know who she is because I watched a show that had one of her songs in it, and I just wanted to look up more of her work. And then I just did some research and digging into her as a person and how instrumental and important she was as an artist.
Wow. You know she has a biography that's on
Yep.
Netflix.
Oh, on Hulu. I watched it.
Oh,
And there's a movie based on her life starring Zoe Saldana, but Zoe Saldana ain't black, so we won't go there.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
You
Oh.
You saw that one too, right?
yeah.
just read
And
an
that-
article. He apologized for doing that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the other thing. I had no idea either that she wasn't black. So I was like, oh, all right. But I did know that she wasn't dark enough to play Nina Simone. I didn't know that. If it's a biography, get a fierce, like, dark-skinned woman. Viola Davis at that point was
Oh my
still
God.
unemployed, and nobody bothered to pick up the phone and call her.
You would have been amazing.
You
So
know?
talented.
Cynthia Erivo, come on.
Yeah.
Hello, right?
Wow.
And my girl Cynthia can sing too. Like what?
Yes. Girl could sing.
House down. I don't know. It's so sad how everything is, what mainstream is and what gets glorified and what gets highlighted,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.